Good afternoon. Jordan Yaney coming to you live from our digital news desk here at our 14 News studios because jury deliberations have begun in the murder trial of Elizabeth Fox-Doerr. Of course, Fox-Doerr is accused of planning for Larry Richmond Sr. to have her husband, Robert Doerr, killed back in 2019. Her trial has been going on now. This is day 6. It started last Monday. They did not have it last Tuesday because of Election Day and then broke over the weekend. Our Mitch Carter has been in the courtroom for us the entire time. Mitch, we've heard from all the witnesses. All the evidence has been presented. Closing arguments were made just a bit ago. You just got out of there. And jury is deliberating right now. Let's talk about closing arguments first, Mitch. The prosecution and the defense were each given 45 minutes. We'll start with the prosecution. What were their last remarks to the jury?
Yeah, so the prosecution, Jordan, I got my notes right here I'm going to refer to because, like you said, we just walked out of there right now. They harped a lot on the stuff we've seen kind of throughout this trial. Specifically, that phone call they say took place between Richmond Sr. and, of course, Fox-Doerr just a couple of minutes before that murder took place on February 26th back in 2019. They also talked a lot about the gun in this case they believe was used, a Taurus judge. Now, of course, it's important to remind you a murder weapon was never recovered in this case right here, but they have a lot of evidence they say points to that being the gun that was used. They say that shooting came from west to east, and they of course really harped on the location of the house right there on Oakley Street, saying the Richmond Sr. was in that alley back there and he got a hold and shot Robert after he got home from work at that fire station. Now, of course, after them, the defense gets their chance, and they started off with an interesting quote I wrote down here. They called the state's idea of this case a fictional novel. They said they pointed out that in this case, although there's all kinds of circumstantial stuff, they don't believe there's any real physical evidence that puts Fox-Doerr in association with this murder. Now, of course, they doubted a lot on Larry Richmond Jr., his son's timeline, not making any sense, especially with the prosecution really trying to drive home the idea of an affair as well as financial gain as being two motives in this case. So they don't have to prove motive in this case, but they said the evidence they have would point to that. They mentioned that Larry Richmond Jr.'s timeline didn't make any sense. He said the kiss happened between Larry Richmond Sr. getting out of jail and before he ever met Amanda, the sister of Fox-Doerr, who they allege he was cheating on her with. Now, after that, of course, we took a small break, and then the prosecution gets to go once again. So it's a lot of back and forth, much like how this entire case has gone. The prosecution wrapping things up, saying, once again, they don't have to prove motive, but they think everything strongly points to that affair and that monetary gain side of things. Basically, they rebuttal against everything Mark Phillips and the defense said, much like they had just done to them previously, wrapping things up, saying that, no matter what they have in this case, even if they had a very limited amount of information, even though they have more than what they say they do, all of that would still point to a guilty verdict. That's what they say they're trying to get that jury to come up with when they wrap up deliberations here.
All right, Mitch, you have been in court now for 6 separate days and basically a week and a half covering this. There's a lot going on, and you've covered court cases for us in the past. This is the first time our camera's been allowed in that courtroom. What do you think is getting across to people by being able to see it that they maybe might not have gotten in the past when it's just our reporting on a whole 8 hours worth of events?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll show you right here. So you can see this part of my notebook here, all those pages, that is just from this particular trial. Now, it's always like that. These are always so much information. We saw over 20 different witnesses in this case alone. And with that, normally it's just me in there, right? I'll write down what I know, I take notes, and I bring you, a minute and a half at the end of the day. Now that we have the video, we can show you. So you might have noticed if you've been following us here at 14 News, I'll show those extended clips there, 45 seconds to a minute, really letting folks at home understand how this whole thing works and let them see and make their own determinations. Beforehand, although of course we try to be as non-biased as we can, really the only access you have is what we tell you. Now you can watch it for yourself, you can make your own deductions, and of course we'll be here to show you live when that verdict comes down.
I think that's an interesting point that you're making, Mitch, that people can make their own determinations based on what they're seeing. I have right now 14news.com pulled up for you on my computer here. This is our top story on our website right now, so if you go to 14news.com, you'll see this. There you can get caught up to speed on the case of when Robert Doerr was murdered back in 2019. All of Mitch's coverage from day 1 through 5 there, and you can watch those closing arguments there as well. Mitch, they are in jury deliberations now. For those who don't know what that is, what happens from here? Of course, all the evidence has been presented, the witnesses we've heard from them, opening, closing arguments. What's happening now behind closed doors with the jury?
Yeah, so the way this works, for not familiar, is now both sides have rested. The state and the defense have both rested. So basically, for lack of some better terms here, all the work that they're supposed to do is done. The case really falls in the hands of that jury now. There are 12 people back there and 2 alternates, making 14 total, who will sit back there as long as is necessary to go back and forth, maybe changing their opinions, maybe not. The idea becoming, to get a verdict in this case, all 12 jurors, not including the alternates, have to agree, right? So whether that's guilty, whether that's not guilty, whether it's a mix of both, what we have to see here, no matter how long that takes, it may take a couple minutes, it may take hours. What they've got to see is a complete and unified front there, picking whatever charges they do or don't pursue with Elizabeth Fox-Doerr. So, like I said, it could be a couple minutes, we could be here till midnight. It really is up to them right now. The courtroom is closed off. The work's done for the state and the defense. They've put the time in. They've shown the witnesses. They've shown the evidence. They put everything back there. The jury now has access to all that evidence, right? So every little paper we saw, every file, every video, every audio clip, they have all that. They can review all that. They can talk about it amongst each other, really leading to what has ultimately got to be a unified front. Now, if they can't reach that, which we've seen before, that's when you get what's called a hung jury, where there might be a charge or both charges where they can't decide and they'd have to try this case once more.
All right, Mitch, we appreciate your work in the courtroom. This is not the first time you've been in a murder trial, but this is the first time, as we've mentioned extensively, that we have had our cameras in there, and that's almost an extra burden for you to really have that detail to show everyone what's happening, not only with your reporting, but with your video. We think you've done an excellent job the last week and a half reporting on that. And as you mentioned, it's got to be a unanimous decision, so there is no telling when this verdict happens, but we can count on you being there, right?
Absolutely, Jordan. We'll be here as long as that takes. I'm locked in, and normally it's only a couple of hours, but I've been here well past the shows before, so I'm ready to do it again if necessary.
All right, Mitch, we'll go ahead and let you go. Great work again on the trial this last week and a half. You've done a great job keeping us informed and in the loop. We'll let Mitch go there. I want to remind you one more time on 14news.com right now, our top story. I'll take you back to the homepage so you can see. If you go to 14news.com, right here, this biggest story with live coverage of jury deliberations underway. You can get caught up to speed on anything you might have missed, any of Mitch's reports from the first 5 days of trial, as well as from today when we had closing arguments. You can see that there. And Mitch, as he mentioned, will be in the courtroom, not in the courtroom actually because it's locked. He'll be waiting outside for that verdict to come down, and we will bring that to you on air and on streaming and online when that comes in, and we'll let you know what the jury unanimously decides, or if they can't come to a decision about that hung jury. Jordan Yanny coming to you live from our digital news desk here at our 14 News studios. Again, 14 News app, turning push alerts on. The moment we know what the verdict is or it's about to be given, we will let you know, and we will take that verdict live for you on 14 News. All right, once we have that verdict, we will let you know. Mitch Carter will be waiting outside for that decision. Have a good day.